It's time to talk sports, it's time for the show. When you hear this song on the radio, it's time to tune in, better act fast. Let me get that autograph. Potograph, Sports Talk Radio. Starting now.
Let's go. What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 136 of Let Me Get That Potograph. As always, my name is the DH, and joined by my side, my new sidekick, Mr. Scott Rappaport. What's going on, bud?
The same as always, except crazy this week, Drew.
Yeah, man, it was nuts. A lot of big craziness in all different sports. And then in the hobby, as always, which, speaking of, we'll be having Nathan Burns, the owner of Grand Slam Collectables, joining us a little bit later today to talk about some of that incredible hobby news. But I guess we'll kick it off with one of the biggest days of the year. It's a holiday. I mean, Cincinnati canceled school, whether they won or lost, the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl obviously just happened. Amazing game. Just like I expected. My preseason pick of the Rams winning the Super Bowl did come to fruition, and I hedged that Bengal +4 in the under, and so we won both of them. It was a very good night. But the Rams, it was a nice one.
And I will say my score prediction was pretty damn close. I had the spread right, but I was off. I think, what did I say, 27-24 on last week's show? Wound up 23-20, so I wasn't that far off. So I'm kind of patting myself on the back for that one because I was close.
Yeah, it was a low-scoring game for both teams, and especially for a Super Bowl. I mean, no team scored more than 10 points in any quarter. And, I mean, normally in the Super Bowl, you see a team have, one of those 17-point quarter outbursts, type of deals where they go crazy. And so, I mean, it really was it was a tough game. Both teams only totaled just over 300 yards apiece. I mean, this was a defensive game. The Cincy defense stepped up. Both quarterbacks got beat up like crazy. Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase played phenomenal. Both of them made some catches that were just mind-blowing. OBJ going down was tough. I hated that for him more than anything because you've seen OBJ go through his maturation process, and it looks like he's finally gotten it down. And then to be in the Super Bowl and then to get hurt, it was tough to watch, in my opinion, and that set the Rams back quite a bit. But, they did fight through and win in the end. It was a great Super Bowl and a great end to an incredible playoffs. Like, seriously, I can't remember a better all-around playoffs where just the last month, it doesn't matter what game you turned on, it was excellent. And
we saw some of the best football in this year's playoffs, and I think we've seen in years. A lot of the overtime games, the back and forth, the fourth quarter, comebacks, either to win or to force overtime. It was an absolute insane playoffs this year. But speaking specifically to the Super Bowl, now, Odell Beckham was one of the things that I kind of wanted to touch on, and it sucked seeing him go out like that. Yeah. But I honestly think that there was one guy that made out like a bandit from that injury.
Who's that?
And that was Cooper Kupp.
Yes.
Because until Beckham went down, it was the OBJ show. And had he remained in the game for the remainder of it, I don't think Cooper Kupp would have been the Super Bowl MVP. He may or may not have caught 2 touchdowns, but then again, the Rams may not have fallen behind, either at all or as far, or it may not have been a 3-point game. It may have been a 12-point game, or potentially a 20-point game.
That dual threat, when they lost that dual threat, it really changed the game. It really changed the game when it was only Cooper. And I agree. I think Cooper Kupp greatly benefited from OBJ.
Yep. And I think you were spot on last week with T. Higgins. He had a great game last night. Jamar Chase stayed out of the end zone, which hurt me quite a bit because I had some parlay bets that had Jamar Chase scoring a touchdown that cost me
incredible one-handed catch in the first quarter, though. Holy cow!
That was a beautiful catch. And then he had another one later, a little bit later on in the game too. It actually that went down as a catch. I think that went down as a run because he was behind Joe Burrow at the time. But, got him a first down, which,
So we're talking about all these different guys now. Matthew Stafford now has a ring, which is very important because he, he's got numbers. He's late in his career. But let's take a look at it from a hobby standpoint. I mean, we just spoke on a ton of different names. From the Super Bowl, what do you think we see as a takeaway in the hobby?
Well, I think we've started to see it a little bit, during the playoffs is, Stafford stuff is, getting some love now. And, he languished away in Detroit for a long time. And up until, December of this year, you could pick up Stafford stuff dirt cheap.
Oh, yeah.
And the guys that did are making out like bandits, which is great. Or, they're able to pick up PC stuff of his, now, they'd be paying 4 to 5 times as much for it. I think that Joe Burrow, you'll see a little bit of a dip, but I think you would have seen a dip regardless of what happens because that always happens during the offseason.
Yeah.
I think Cooper Kupp, is going to see a massive increase. His stuff wasn't ridiculously expensive at that point. Either, given that he's a wide receiver. But I think it was ESPN that pointed out that he won Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
He won the Triple Crown for receiving, yards, catches, and touchdowns, and Super Bowl MVP, in addition to winning the Super Bowl, too. And ESPN pointed out that there is one other player, and that would be Jerry Rice, who also accomplished that feat as well. However, Rice did it over the course of his entire career. Cooper Kupp has done that in a single season, which is an absolutely ridiculous thing to think about, is that nobody has ever done that before in a single season. I think he's got nowhere to go but up. Obviously, Jamar Chase, on the other side of the ball. I think T. Higgins is still criminally cheap.
Yeah, I agree.
Even they made it to the Super Bowl. I'm looking at pricing on his stuff last week. You can still pick up T. Higgins for dirt cheap, and if
it's me, I grab him because I'm telling you right now, this Bengals team, this is not a one and done type of team. This is a team that had holes that are going to fill needs and fill holes, and got a lot of their team. Look at that team on paper. They're on rookie contracts. The main people are on rookie contracts, which gives them insane flexibility to fix those holes. Plus, the guys are entering in year 2, year 3, which is where you truly see that NFL body develop the breakout. DK Metcalf, it took him a couple years, and look what happened. I mean, that's kind of how it is. But, I look at the Super Bowl, and I think it's going to do what I've said on the show the last couple of weeks. I think it's going to draw even more attention to the other positions outside of quarterbacks. I think.
No, I agree. And I think the Bengals are poised, if they can fix the holes in the offensive line. I think they're going to be poised to have a good 3 to 4 year run before they start having to make some salary cap decisions, which may set them back a little bit depending on, who they bring in to replace guys that they can't keep.
That's why I see the Bengals as, and T. Higgins is one of those guys as a main counterpart. I think he's only going to get better. I think playing with Chase is only going to make him, get even more balls. I think he's going to just improve over years. And like you said, he didn't get much of a bump yet. He's still very cheap. You look for those long-term holds. T. Higgins, killer. That's why I mentioned him last week, and the Super Bowl played out exactly how I thought it would on the defensive side of the line. On that side. Congratulations to Aaron Donald. Now, Aaron Donald's going to be interesting because defensive players get no love whatsoever, but Aaron Donald's one of those rare breeds. He's one of those almost exceptions, like an Urlacher or somebody like that. That is, but I think the thing is I mean, his stuff's already gone up some, but I think just like Ray Lewis and other players like that, when his career is over, which it might be, this might have been his swan song. I think the more it goes by, when he gets into the Hall of Fame, as his career goes on, I think he may end up being one of the biggest beneficiaries outside of the quarterbacks from the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think he doesn't have a lot of autograph stuff out there from a card standpoint.
Right.
And but you look at a couple of other defensive players that have done really well, at least from their autograph stuff. Charles Woodson is a guy who he doesn't sign a ton, but the stuff that he does sign, it's usually low numbers, and it sells for a ton of money. He may be that, he may be in that position. His career may be over. He was hinting last night that he may want to retire. And the only thing he was missing was the ring. He had everything else, except for league MVP, but it's rare to see a defensive player, no matter how good they are, win that. He finished out, if he does retire, he finished out on top. Picked up that championship that he was missing for so long. And he was one of the I think 3 guys that are still on the team from when they were in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So, he's been with the organization a long time. He's been a phenomenal player his entire career, and I actually hope he doesn't retire, because as much as I hate playing against him, he is a lot of fun to watch.
Yes.
I don't like I cringe, when the Rams and Bears play each other, because they, be a tough game, because they got, Donald on the team, and but he is crazy fun to watch.
And the passion he has for the game, you saw it come out last night. This is somebody that loves football like very few people do in the league. So I don't know. I see him. Obviously, Stafford and Burrow are going to get major bumps, and some of the wide receivers and running backs. But if we're talking about Super Bowl, I do think in the end and in the long run, I think Aaron Donald may end up being the biggest winner out of all of this. But, Scott, we're going to move on from the Super Bowl now, because we had a jam-packed show today, to the segment that has taken the nation by storm. That's right. It's time for Movers and Shakers. And this week, Scotty boy, I'm going to let you kick us off. So who you got for your Mover and Shaker this week?
All right. So I am going to dip into the NBA trade deadline, which we'll most likely be talking about in a little while. And my Mover and Shaker is Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Beautiful.
Who got traded not once but twice before the deadline, and I believe it was it was either a 48-hour or a 24-hour period. Got traded to Portland. Portland flipped him to Utah, and I think he is going to excel. Playing that team with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. I see it as a huge place where he can finally get some really solid playing time.
I'm a huge Nickeil Alexander-Walker fan, and have been since the draft. I thought he was one of the best players up and coming in the league in his position with Zion. The trade is his first trade. I liked it. I thought him and Dame could do something interesting in Portland. I thought it would be a little tough for him, but I liked it. The only problem is it's Portland. The trade to Utah, however, puts him on this movers and shakers list 1,000%, because the backcourt area that you got now with him and Spider, putting him on that team, Nickeil Alexander-Walker was the piece that the Jazz were missing, in my opinion. They did not have to they fleeced this trade. They got him they did not have to give up major pieces that, ultimately they really needed. Elijah Hughes, Joe Ingles, that's whatever. Joe Ingles is a little bit of a tough of a miss, but you can replace that easily with Hernan Gomez, who was also in the NIL deal. So, those two guys.
And Elijah Hughes wasn't getting much playing time anyway.
No.
And look,
Walker,
they got
Walker and Spider could be special.
The Jazz have an amazing GM in Justin Zanuck. And, he doesn't pull off a lot of trades, but, and moves around the league. Right. But the ones that he does, he's very masterful. And there's a reason that Utah is constantly one of the top performing teams in the West, is because he knows exactly what pieces are needed, and he knows, who are the under the radar guys that we don't have to give up a ton for to maintain and constantly be a contender. And I think, Nickeil Alexander-Walker was not getting a ton of playing time in New Orleans. He would have gotten the playing time in Portland, but I don't think he would have gotten the development that he needed, even playing with Damian Lillard. But I think it's hilarious. He went from New Orleans to Portland to the team that used to be in New Orleans. And so there's still that connection there.
Yeah, he's still got a little bit of a connection there. And I'm going to stick in the NBA for my pick as well. I think it's going to I love the Nickeil Alexander-Walker pick, by the way. I think he's perfect. And, guys, he's still affordable, but it's not going to be for long, especially now that he's in Utah. But like I said, I am going to stick in the NBA with mine. As we'll be talking about the NBA much more after our interview with Mr. Nate Burns coming up here shortly. Stay tuned for that. But it's a guy that I loved already. His only problem was he was stuck in hell, aka Sacramento. Now he's gone, and I think even though he didn't go to the biggest team in the world, he went to a team with a rabid fan base, and he went to a team where he fits in perfectly, and that's Tyrese Halliburton. This kid is an absolute beast. This kid is going to be an eventual Supermax player, and this kid fits in on a Pacers team perfectly. They fleeced Buddy Hield and Halliburton from him, bringing Hield, who's one of the best three-point shooters around, onto that Pacers team. You've got Duarte, who's playing great, but Halliburton fits into this team perfect. That is the man they needed, and do not be surprised to see Halliburton turn into a much better version of Victor Oladipo type of player for the Pacers, and the Pacers have a rabid fan base collecting-wise. Halliburton, I thought, was the absolute fleece, and for hobby, he's still selling at Sacramento prices. He hasn't fully gone up yet, but watch what he does in Indy. He's only going to go up, just like I nailed T. Higgins. I'm telling you right now, Halliburton to Indy is a big move for him, and I see huge things in his future. So my mover and shaker this week is 1,000% Tyrese Halliburton.
I hated seeing him in a yellow and black uniform the other day, because just like Halliburton himself, I am also an Iowa State guy. So, seeing him in the Iowa colors, even though it's a different eye, it did kind of hurt a little bit. Sure. And, being in Chicago, that it kind of hurts seeing too, because, we got to play him. So it's I like it from his standpoint. I think I actually think he's going to get a ton more exposure in Indiana, even though it's a smaller market team, from a playing time, from a noticeability, standpoint. Because let's be honest, the Kings are kind of like the number 4 team that everybody pays attention to out of California.
Well, in the hobby, from a hobby standpoint on the Kings, you're looking at everyone saying Bagley, Fox, Hield, Halliburton's all down.
Oh, man, nobody's been saying Bagley. Nobody's been saying Bagley in a while.
Right, but you know what I mean? He's low down on that list of guys of just get him out of Sacramento and they're okay. And so he had so many guys to jump over to get any hobby love in Sacramento. Right in Indiana, he's that guy. I mean, he's I think part of and actually Sacramento's got this problem too, because they really only have the Kings, and Indiana really only has the Pacers and the Colts. Yeah. From a sports standpoint, both cities have minor league baseball and things like that, but a large collecting base.
Yes, a very large collecting base. I'm down in Indianapolis on a regular basis due to its proximity to where I am. It's a 3-hour drive. Tons of card shops, some decent ones in that area too, and some decent shows that pop up there too. They like, I would say they love the hobby, down there. And I think he is going to be a really good fit. I almost went with that one myself, instead of the Nickeil Alexander-Walker trade. Yeah. But I still can't get over the whole yellow and black.
Right.
Thing,
yeah.
And yes, I did call him out on Instagram for it. Which is why I know why you were laughing, but somebody had to poke him a little bit, and
Sure.
it might as well have been me.
Okay, hey, get to show some publicity. Poke every athlete. Poke them all you want on social media only, please. But yeah, so that's gonna do it for this week's edition of Movers and Shakers, you guys. We will be right back after these messages with Mr. Nathan Burns. And welcome back, everybody, to episode 156 of Let Me Get That Potograph.
Drew, hold
on
up.
The line now.
It's not 156.
What number is it?
136.
See, this is why I have a new co-host. This is exactly why, because he can fix everything. 136 of Let Me Get That Potograph. And on the line with us now, we've got our very special guest. He is a collector, hobbyist, owner of Grand Slam Collectables, one of the finest card shops in the entire country. And now a hobby and NIL trailblazer, Nate Burns. What's going on, man?
Hey, fellas. How are y'all doing today?
Doing good.
Doing great, Nate. How about yourself?
I'm great.
Awesome. Well, happy to finally have you on the show. I think every single national video that I've done, I think you've been in, and a lot of other different things that we've done, you've been in, but we never actually gotten a chance to have you on the show. So really happy to have you here, man. And there's a lot of stuff I want to touch on today because you're obviously heavily involved in the hobby, but we got to start with the breaking news came out just a couple of days ago. You're jumping into the NIL industry, signing Kentucky quarterback. His name's escaping me right now, but signing the Kentucky quarterback right now to an NIL deal. How did that come about, and what made you even think of getting into the NIL atmosphere?
Well, I mean, the one thing I've learned about owning a small business the last 6 years is, things are always changing, and if you don't adapt and you don't change, you die. If you look around, there's Toys R Us, there's service merchandise, whatever it is. I mean, you can be booming, you can be the Sears catalog in the 80s and be the biggest thing in the world, and then, if you don't adapt, you can be a dinosaur in your industry. And I feel like the NIL deal is something that I feel like it's a really a win-win. For the athlete and for us. We're trying to build our brand, in the state of Kentucky, obviously. So we want to go after a state school, someone who's got a pretty good Instagram following, who has a chance to have a really big year. So it just felt like a perfect fit. The way he plays the game is kind of the way I run my business. So I just thought he was the one. For the money we spent, we could have picked anybody, and we did pick him.
Now, I'm also assuming, I know you're in Tennessee, and it is, by the way, sorry, Will, for not knowing the name, but it is Will Levis, the quarterback of Kentucky. Did the Kentucky thing factor into it? Are you a Kentucky fan? Did that bring you along the lines? Was that part of it?
Yeah, I've been a Wildcat fan since I was knee high. I've been through the rough years and those things. So I'm much more familiar. We have season tickets. So I'm able to get a little bit better feel of not just the play, but the personality. And it's going to take more than just somebody scoring a few touchdowns. You need a leader. You need somebody who's going to put some work in to help you promote your brand. So that was one of the reasons. Again, with the number we spent, we could have picked we could have had Bryce Young for our collectible deal for the same, no problem whatsoever. We could have had anybody. We literally could have had anybody. I handpicked him. Not to say there's not some other players in the country that I wouldn't work with. It's just this is all new territory, and I'd rather cut my teeth and learn with Will. I feel like he's somebody who will put the work in and try to help me as well. It's not just a one-way street.
So is Will going to become the new face of Grand Slam Collectibles? And will we see him doing breaks with you and appearing in some of those live videos?
He's definitely. I've got quite a few podcasts and things like that I can get him into. He'll do a meet and greet in Lexington with all of our customers that are in the Lexington area during the season. So I thought that was cool. He'll sign a couple thousand autographs for us, things like that. I mean, no, I'm not going to make like Will Levis. Like the face of our business or anything, but I feel like me and him working together, we can put money that he's earned in his pocket, and I don't need his bag. I've secured my own bag. Right. So what I need is someone that can spread the news about Grand Slam Collectibles a little bit in Kentucky, because we're down here in Tennessee, and I just feel like it could be a really big win-win for both of us.
And especially, you know, with your website, you know, that you have, you can definitely order anywhere in the country for most products. And, you know, whether they're in Tennessee or Kentucky, it's not going to make a difference. You'll ship anywhere.
Right. Yeah, you know, and I'd also, you know, argued it's going to become national because he's a good quarterback, and Kentucky's got a good team coming up this year. I think they're going to do pretty good, you know, so he can garner, especially down the line, I see quite a bit of attention, which is kind of what these NIL deals are, really, is prospecting with some guys, getting them while they're hot in college, and, you know, if they pan out, you know, you've got that established relationship already. But I was told, and I've read, that this was, and like you said, you could have had anyone with the deal that you signed him to. With this deal, I was told it was record breaking. How big of a deal was it, and, you know, how long did it take to secure this deal?
It took a couple weeks to kind of talk with the representation for him. He's guaranteed $100,000, which a lot of these, you'll see a lot of these deals where they'll say, well, they're doing $1 million deal or whatever, but you never hear the word guaranteed. It's if they do this or if they do that. I mean, all it boils down to is I'm literally putting $100,000 of our own money up, and you know, he does these things. And like the autographs, like we'll put the autographs on the website for Kentucky fans, and the money essentially goes to Will, and the advertising and the relationship with Kentucky fans comes to us. And that's literally, I mean, I really don't understand. Like, there's a lot of small-minded people who say, oh, that's crazy. Well, I mean, I was probably the only card shop that opened in the year 2016. If you really go back and look, there was no, everybody said I was crazy then, and now they're popping up on every corner. So I have a feeling these same people who say I'm crazy will be asking me for advice in 4 or 5 years how to get their card shop, you know, an NIL deal.
I agree. And I also think, you know, you look what a lot of people, I think, aren't aware if you don't live or if you don't visit in the Southeast. The Southeast and the Midwest and everything has an incredibly strong collecting base. And so, you know, that value just strengthens right there.
Right. You know, my thing is, you know, when Fanatics has come in, and things are going to completely change for my business at some point. So, you know, you already see me getting into Pokemon. You see me getting into Magic. You see me getting into, you know, we're grading thousands of cards to put on the website. You know, you have to be proactive. You can't wait for things to happen and then sit around and cry about it. You have to, you know, your business is a living, breathing thing. And, you know, at any point things can change and your allocations go from really good to zero. And what are you going to do then? So, you know, what I'm trying to do is just really give him what he deserves, rightfully so. These players have deserved this for the last 60 years. You know, they're earning it. And then I'm in turn able to get some goodwill advertising out of it. There's literally nobody that gets hurt. It's a win-win unless one or the other is taking advantage of the other one in these deals. So I feel like, hey, you know, it's a win-win. And again, you hear me say that a lot because that's really at this point, that's the only type of deals I really want to do is where both people are satisfied at the end of the deal.
And that makes a ton of sense. And obviously, without naming names or anything like that, are there any others from any other sports that you're, you know, are you looking for somebody from basketball, or are you going to try to expand into multiple different, you know?
That's what I was That's what I was about to ask. Are we going to have a Grand Slam roster here?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak on one player, but like we're going after the biggest player in college basketball, and you know, that's a list of 5 or 10 names, but there's some, you know, legal hoops you have to jump through for certain players, and you know, they're, you know, I can't really speak on it, but yeah, we're going after, like, Will Levis is exactly who I wanted in football. I'd like to get someone in basketball. And then this is going to be a learning process for all of us. Right. And I'll learn real fast, you know, hey, this is way too much work for the advertising or the goodwill you get from it. And I'll adjust. But I have a feeling if you pick the right players, and you're willing to put in some work, that it should be a a good situation for both of you.
Like you said, a win-win situation for both parties. And it was something that I never thought of, was the NIL and hobby kind of crossing over a little bit, if you will. I think it's brilliant. And I think there's going to be a lot of positivity and a lot of exposure nationwide. And also on your end, it gets you, in with agents, people like that, more involved in all of that. And I think, I think we're going to see the NIL and hobby quite a bit in the coming years. You're already seeing some players link up with card companies to have custom cards done. You're seeing all of this stuff done. So grabbing a player for you're much more in a card shop, Grand Slam Collectables. I mean, you're much more than one of the best card shops in the country now, and that's what I think it really is it's really expanding that Grand Slam Collectables into a multifaceted almost universe.
And it makes a ton of sense, getting into it, because obviously, we know that we know Topps has the deal with G League Ignite. We know Leaf has had some NIL deals in the last year since that became a thing, and I think it absolutely makes a ton of sense for a larger shop business like Grand Slam to get into this, and you may be I wouldn't say maybe, I think you will be a trendsetter, because I think you're going to see a lot of the other big players in the industry jump in and be like, oh man, Nate signed an NIL deal, and we got to go out and get one. So, I wouldn't put it past, a couple of the other big players to, do something either locally, where they're based out of, or, if they've got somebody with a national presence that, can help them, build the business as well. And, I think Nate, you hit the nail right on the head, with Fanatics coming in, nobody has any idea what is going to happen with this industry. Are they going to cut out the card shops and you need another another way to bring things in where you're not selling wax anymore, you're strictly focusing on singles, or are you going to, continue to have allocations, things like that, or nobody knows. So this is something that you're securing yourself, for the future. And I think it's a solid play.
We're going to give it a whirl. We're going to see what happens.
Speaking on the Fanatics deal, obviously being one of the biggest card shops in the country and everything, you're privy to probably some conversations and stuff that others aren't. Have you heard anything along the lines of how card shops are going to be implemented with this new Fanatics deal and everything at all?
No, I haven't. I mean, I haven't been approached, or, my assumption is going to be that, Fanatics bought it to try to cut out distributors.
Yeah,
for sure. And probably most card shops, I think what they'll try to do is, I think they'll try to put a Fanatics kiosk in every mall in the country, or every arena in the country. I think you'll see they'll try to buy some card shops. I think, some good card shop bought, and it'll be Mike Stadium, cards presented by Fanatics or things like that. I think that could be down the road. The price of wax has come down some, and the more that it comes down right now, the better off the small card shop is. You need to take the money. These guys that are wringing their hands, we've all been given the golden ticket, if you're, like, come on, like, what do you mean? I mean, honestly, a lot of people, they could go live on an island if they wanted to. Are they worried? It's been a great run. But I got into this, thinking I might make $40,000, $50,000 a year for the rest of my life and just get to do what I love.
Right.
So to me, I'm going to, now I'm going to be able to find a way to do that with or without Fanatics. I'll sell singles. I'll do autograph signings. I'll, anything. I'll figure a way to at least make a living. Now, will I get 20 cases of National Treasures? No. Anybody, shouldn't expect that, with what's happened. But I haven't heard anything. I just think it needs to be where at this point in time, if you're a small card shop, you need to batten down the hatches and start figuring out how to make some money on your own rather than, let's be honest. There's a lot of card shops who get, they cry about getting, let's say, a box of Flawless.
Right.
Well, then they can't sell it. They're trying to. The only way they can sell it is to blow out or someone else that can sell it, and then they're griping about, not getting more Flawless. It's like, it's just a handout. So, I think you're going to see more where Fanatics will probably want to partner up with people who actually move the product instead of giving it to somebody who's been in business for 10 years. But I mean, I that would be my move if I'm them, is like, hey, partner up with some of the bigger breakers. The breakers are what made this thing. Card shops across the country should thank breakers and really appreciate what they've done for them. So I think that it's just an interesting time.
Well, I mean, breakers kept the distributors in business, during those lean times back, 2013, 14, 15, 16, right about that time when you opened Grand Slam.
Without a doubt.
Frankly, as much as we like to hate on the breakers for taking all the allocations and things like that, if it weren't for them, there's a very good chance that most of this, hobby would be dead and buried by now.
Yeah, social media made it. When I first got on Facebook, I mean, I don't know if there was any other card shops on Facebook. It was all Breakers TV and YouTube.
Yeah.
And those guys were killing, a Firehand and Cards Infinity. And those guys, they were really good at what they do, but they weren't getting out. They were getting out to other collectors. They weren't getting out to the main, the 40-year-old guy that's bored at home. And I think when Facebook got put in the equation, it really took off. So, I mean, there's just so many people in this industry. I don't see the industry going anywhere. I just see that there's going to be some changes, and you just have to be prepared for those.
I completely agree, and I love the moves that you're making, very creative ones. And I think we're going to be looking back, and I'm going to have you on this show if you're not too big timing here in a couple of years. I think this is going to be known as really a landmark time in the hobby. As I see, as Scott said, I think you're going to see a lot of people follow suit, and I think this is something that the possibilities, as I think more and more about it, are absolutely endless. But I do have to ask one major important question. Did Will get to ride in the jet?
No, I don't own a jet. I've chartered quite, several, and I've looked at buying one, but really, when you look at it, the cost of it is so expensive. I mean, unless you're going to need to make, $5-6 million a year after year after year.
Yeah.
That plane has to be producing enough income. And there was a little window there last year where we were buying big deals, hey, $100,000, but those $100,000 Kobe's now are worth $30,000. All of a sudden it doesn't make any sense to spend $30,000 to fly down to Orlando when you can just catch a Southwest flight for free, So to answer your question, no. If Will wants a private jet, he's going to go buy his own private jet.
Yeah, well, I have a feeling in a couple of
years.
Well,
you got to look into fractional ownership of those. Those jets. That might be the better way to go.
We have, me and Sherry have, and they're really cool. We like that. I mean, to me, a plane is you're buying the one commodity that's really tough, and that's time. People don't understand, but money's not what I'm after. It's time. And Mark Cuban, the first big purchase Cuban ever made was a lifelong pass on American Airlines for $500,000. And they don't even do it anymore, obviously. But back then, before he had a private jet, when he sold the first deal for like $6 million, it was a pass where he could go anywhere American Airlines flies for free for his life. And you think about it, it's a very smart decision if you're making that kind of money. But you've got to get up there where, I've got a ways to go. I want one. I'd love to have one, but I've still got a little ways to go.
You're also looking at, the convenience. It's not just the time. Sometimes it's the location. Yeah. Because, you got to worry about the commercial flight schedule, whether it's Southwest or American or whatever. But, if you need to fly into some tiny little town that's a 2-hour drive from the nearest major airport, when you could fly into a municipal airport that's 5 minutes away from where you need to be, that's a huge thing. In addition to, not having to stand in a security line, get there an hour and a half early. You can literally walk up at your scheduled time, get on that plane, and you take off, and you're done.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's the most intoxicating thing is they roll you up on the tarmac. You literally hop on the plane, and 5 minutes later, you're out of there. And, at a time with COVID, you're not on a metal tube with 200 other people that are coughing and hacking. And, there's a lot of advantages. I've done it several times. I'll do it again. But it has to be in selective spots. Just I'm at the end of the day, man, I'm still a normal, I'm a normal guy. Truth be told, I'd rather, if I had a choice, like we flew to Orlando to Disney World, and the flight was like, the charter was going to be like $28,000. Well, man, honestly, I would rather give $28,000 used vehicle to a single mother than fly to Orlando, man. It's silly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just the truth. So, I mean, hey, I'll hop on a flight nonstop. It's simple, but I hope to get to that point where I can have one and not feel that way. But for now, man, it's like, hey, just not there yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wanted to touch on something you said earlier, about switching the business model, selling singles, and things like that just to make it. Did I hear you just did a grading order with ISA?
Yeah, I did. And I've known him. I'm assuming he's one of the owners because I know that they've been going since 2010, 2011. And to be quite honest, the only companies I want to use are PSA and Beckett. And that's the way I've been since the late 90s when I got into this as far as the grading goes. And it's just gotten to the point now where we got about 6,000 or 7,000 cards out to PSA last year, and then it just stopped. Well, I've got a guy I'm paying every week to go through cards, get them graded, and they're just piling up back there. So to make a long story short, I had to at least, I got to thinking about it. I had a conversation with him about a card that Beckett said was fake, that it actually wasn't, and he knew it. And I thought, man, this guy knows what he's doing. They've been in business 11 years. I know they're not slabbing fake and trimmed. And so that's the reason I went with them, is because the cost. And I do know that they know what they're doing. Are there going to be mistakes? Of course. Everybody's going to make mistakes in the grading industry. But I figure I've got to get those Ohtani, 9s and 10s rather than just being raw. I feel like I can't wait a year, 2 years for them to come down on price to $20 or $25 a card, which may never happen. So I went with ISA.
And how was the experience?
Yeah, how's the reception?
My customers, the nation, they're awesome customers. I try to keep it real with them, and I think they probably feel the same way I do. Is, hey man, they were awful tough, and that's the downside of it. Hey, if you're grading as good as PSA, but your cards are selling for half, you know what I mean? Like that can be it's going to be tough. But I mean, they're just fair, and they're tough. They're not easy. So, I've had customers say they were going to send some in, but I really just got my order on, let's see, what's today? Tuesday or Monday? What's today? Anyway, whatever
Monday.
day it is, I got it. Yeah, I got it in the mail yesterday and showed it to them. And, we just kind of went through it, and I was like, man, they are tough. They're good at what they do. I'm hoping over time they become an option for those cards that, people can make 10 or 20 bucks a card, and you're sending in thousands of cards, it adds up. But I mean, it's really what other options. I'm not going to use HGA. I'm not going to, there's certain ones I'm just not using. Yeah.
Well, but let me ask you this. Was it a cost issue that had you going with ISA as opposed to SGC?
SGC, I don't know how much they charge. I didn't look. I think it was isn't it like $30?
Yeah, it's around 26.
So it's anywhere. Yeah, it depends on who you go through. If you're going direct, I think it's $30. You can get it for me, anywhere between 23 to 25 through a group.
If I could get SGC to do them for $20 a piece, I'd probably do quite a few. I mean, I got far less than that in my deal.
Right.
So, if you're asking me, would I rather have SGC or ISA even money? I would rather have SGC. Nothing against ISA. They're tougher. I mean, they're just as tough.
Oh, no. The question was more, what was the reasoning for the decision to go with ISA? Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely the price.
Interesting. Well, okay. I'm gonna be curious to see how those going forward, and that's yet another one of those outside of the box thinking decisions that, like you said, the nation and everything, if you get them on board, that's a mighty big nation out there. So a lot of influence there. But I want to actually touch on something that you said. And when we were talking about the Jets, you said you'd rather give away a card to a single mom that needed it. And that's one thing I wanted to touch on today, because One thing that I don't know if a lot of people know about you and everything at Grand Slam is you guys do a ton in this hobby, and I know everyone knows the name, but I don't think everyone's aware of the incredible charity work that you do. You have done so much charity work. I don't know the exact number. I know it's astronomically high, but what's kind of started that? What kicked it off? And tell us a little bit about how you got started in giving some of this to the charity. Because you do events. I've watched your live streams and stuff where it's full on just charity events, like fully for charity. And I mean, you're opening flawless and crazy stuff. I mean, just astronomical stuff. So, tell me a little bit about where, that kind of came from and built and how that's been going.
I mean, I just feel extremely blessed in what I do. This isn't really work to me. So, if you ever get in a position that we're in, that you should, a lot of people, they find success or whatever you want to call it, happiness. I call it happiness, actually. Doesn't matter, and they forget to reach back and pull someone else up. They're wanting to act as if they didn't catch any breaks or whatnot. And I mean, I'm just really big into, if someone truly needs help and you're able to provide it, I mean, like, that's why God gave me the gift that he gave me. It wasn't, it was to help someone who needed it, not necessarily own a bunch of pieces of cardboard at the end of the day when I'm dead and gone. That stuff's not very important. And I feel like, hey, every single day, it's good versus evil. And I mean, nobody's perfect. All of us have bad days and all of us do bad things sometimes. But at the end of the day, you have to choose, which side of that fight you're going to be on. And I just feel like, for me, the way I was raised, my father taught me to help. And I feel like that's one of the best things that's come from all this is the help that we've been able to provide to some people. So that's really where it came from, is my father. He taught me. It wasn't something that I was born with. It was something that I acquired by watching and learning from my dad. And I feel like hopefully we're just getting started. The better we do, the more that we can help.
No, absolutely. I love it. I think it's awesome. So, we're obviously in a crazy time period. You're jumping into the NIL, but what is next, and what's the future hold for Grand Slam? What you got coming up? Anything big coming up or anything like that?
I mean, really, I almost feel like, I mean, our store will always, I feel like, be open. I feel like this is but it's not really for me anymore. It's the guys that work here and put a lot of time and energy into it. I want their lives to be better. So, but I almost feel like, in a weird way, that my book has been written, and sports cards wasn't the end. It was how I got my beginning into some other things. And as far as, what's next, I don't know. I just feel like this book's kind of been written, and I don't really have anything left to prove. I'm a big, I like to have an adversary. I like to have doubters. I like that. And truthfully, I feel like, I'm always going to love sports cards. I'm always going to be in it some, but I feel like I'd like to see if I can translate some of this in another industry and see if it translates somewhere else as well.
Absolutely. Well, before I let you go, man, let everybody know, if they aren't aware, drop your socials and everything. Let everybody know how they can find you if they're interested in checking you out.
Yeah, you can find us at mainly on YouTube or Facebook, Grand Slam Collectables in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The website's only at grandslam.com. Hope you folks have a great day. I appreciate y'all listening. And I also appreciate you guys having me. I really appreciate you, the kind words, and I appreciate you having me on here, man.
And we appreciate having you here as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
No problem, man. Have a great day.
And once again, I'd like to thank our very special guest, Mr. Nathan Burns. Scott, that was a great interview. He's such a cool dude.
Yeah, I've met him a couple times in the past. We have some mutual friends, mutual acquaintances, mutual contacts and things like that. And he's always been a great guy. I liked what he had to say. I like his direction, and he's getting creative. And that's what we need to see in this industry. Past episodes, we've talked about, the creativity of, art, and things like that. And, guys like Card Killer and, the awesome pieces that, him and the other artists in the hobby have put out. This is a different type of creativity. This is more of a business creativity.
But it's very much needed.
I like to see it. I like to see it. I think I agree 100%. I want to see who comes up next. I want to see, does Blowout do an NIL deal? Does David Adams, Steel City? I could see Chicagoland doing a deal like that.
All of these companies are having meetings this week.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, NIL is brought up. That deal yesterday is going to be looked back at as a landmark, massive, massive deal. And I guarantee you that every major player that has a weekly meeting is discussing that deal and getting some group or some team together to do some research for themselves for their own possibility. And you're going to see a lot more out of it. But one thing that was interesting to me that I had no idea about was the grading. What do you think about the submitting to a grading company like that? A grading company that's very, very small.
Well, I kind of put it on the same scale as if he were to have submitted to GMA. Company that has been around for a long time, but is not as well known and, does not have the selling prices on the secondary market, for their higher grades than PSA, BGS, SGC. And that's why, when I asked him about it, and I think he hit the nail on the head. Price was a major factor. And, even at, SGC, the $23, $24, $25 range that you can get through a lot of their group submitters, that extra $3, $4, or $5 compared to the sub $20 that he didn't give us the exact pricing that he got for it, but
but it's low, you could tell.
Everything, every dollar, especially on those lower end cards, every dollar counts. And I know it was a quick turnaround time that he got, which is respectable. According to him, the grades were accurate. I didn't get a chance to actually see any of the cards, outside of the short video that he posted. But and even then, it's tough to tell, how accurate
and if
they really
if you
were.
truly trust them, and some of them are some decent cards. All the ones that get, the flawless 10s, the masterful ones. That's a great pre-grading for him. It's no cost on him to maybe send off to one of the bigger boys later on and set him aside. But with the way they move stuff with their slab boxes, and things like that, it shows, getting that stuff slabbed and everything makes total sense. But the grading company chosen was interesting. And the fact that SGC, of all people who try to get in with everybody, didn't reach out personally to try and get him set up with a deal was surprising to me. But a wonderful interview, and thank you once again to Mr. Nathan Burns for stopping by the show. Guys, make sure to check out his awesome feed. They really do some great stuff over there, whether it be breaks. His card shop in Tennessee is amazing. If you are ever traveling, stop by that shop. It is incredible.
Now, Drew, let me ask you this. Instead of ISA, if he had gone with HGA, would we be having the same conversation, or would you be questioning his sanity?
No, I would have stopped the interview. I would have stopped the interview and turned him off and told him he's a fucking idiot. Like, no. Look, I gave HGA their very first interview right when they started. I literally, I was told a couple of days before that this new company was coming out, and there was a big marketing push behind it. We got the interview ready, so it came out the day it was announced. We set everything up. We did all this stuff, and listening to it now from where they are, from what they said, it's a complete and total joke. The owner, I got into it with the owner, who I considered a friend and someone that I respect as a person. I don't think he considers me a friend anymore. But when you've got an owner who's jumping into random Facebook groups, or not even groups, but just random person's posts on their wall, attacking people, throwing out insults. I offered to be his damage control and PR guy. I said, I'm an open offer. Just tell me how much you want to pay me. Like, they need some help. HGA is a total complete joke. They need to pivot into a vanity encapsulation company very fast. Otherwise, they're going to be gone, because you've seen in the last couple of weeks some very big, very easily spotted fakes out there. They released yet another explanation.
Nolan Ryan Desert Shield.
Yeah, the Nolan Ryan Desert Shield and the dual auto and the dual Magic Johnson and someone else auto that I can't remember. And then I know there's 3 cards that someone sent that they know for a fact are fake. They have there right now. We'll see if those get slabbed or not. But there's just a lot of problems out there. And, so yeah, if he had said HGA, I probably would have ended the interview and questioned his sanity. But luckily, he was smart enough to say, I didn't go with HGA.
And I agreed with that choice, not to go with HGA.
Yes, nobody should. But anyway, we'll move on from there. No need to harp on that. But once again, check out Grand Slam. They are. So if you ever get a chance to hit that shop up, as I'm somebody who, when I'm traveling, I like to see if there's some really neat, cool card shop on my route, and I'm gonna stop if I can. If you're ever passing through Tennessee in that area, then definitely hit up his card shop, because it's one of those experience type of ordeals and doing some really cool stuff. But before we end the show, man, we do have one more thing I wanted to touch on with you, and that's this week in the NBA, we had so many moves at the trade deadline that shook up. I mean, we mentioned a couple moves earlier on movers and shakers, but it shook up the NBA so much from a hobby standpoint. Like, there were so many. I mean, you always get these little moves, but this NBA trade deadline could have incredible effects on the future of the basketball market for countless players and a lot that weren't even traded.
Yeah. And this was one of the crazier trade deadlines that we've had. Obviously the big headline trade was Ben Simmons to the Nets for Harden.
Yeah, for Harden.
There were some role players and some draft picks and stuff in there too. And I think that trade is going to be good for both players. I think it's going to be a fresh environment for Simmons, where he's not tied into his little antics that he went through. I think it's going to be solid for reunites him with his old GM from when he was in Houston. We had the Nickeil Alexander-Walker trade twice. We had CJ McCollum going to the Pelicans as part of that was a big trade. We had Porzingis going to Washington mid-sandwich order. Dude couldn't even order his sandwich when he got traded. He was, mid-order on that one. Yeah, if you saw that meme floating around there. And then, another big one that, we sort of touched on earlier, we had Halliburton, Hield, and Tristan Thompson going to the Pacers for some ramen and a pack of Cools.
Yeah,
and I think there were some really good one-sided trades that somehow got pulled off. Bagley got traded. Sacramento was pretty busy getting rid of him. My big surprise out of the entire trade deadline, though, was the Lakers not doing a thing.
Yeah, that was very shocking to me to not see them do anything. Another trade that shocked me quite a bit, and I think is going under the radar, but could put this team into dangerous territory, is Karis LeVert going to the Cavs.
Yeah.
That Cavs team is very good already. That Cavs team is one of the biggest surprises in the league already, and they just got somebody deadly. That Cavs team is somebody I look at from a hobby standpoint. There's multiple people on the Cavs that I'm scooping up right now, because now it's coming into fruition how they're going to use all these pieces. And the Cavs are a team that I think are going to surprise a lot of people and go a couple rounds in the postseason this year. So I've kind of started to pick up a couple of Cavs here and there. But, I mean, Karis LeVert is a huge addition for the Cavs. CJ McCollum, which you mentioned earlier, massive toy for Zion. CJ and Zion fit a lot better than CJ and Dame do.
Yeah.
CJ with Zion along with Brandon Ingram. That's a scary threesome when healthy. Now, all of this has to do with health.
That's when healthy.
Yeah, now it all has to do with health, but when healthy, that is a scary three. But the Pelicans are a 10 seed right now without Zion. So you add him into the mix right now, CJ McCollum could put him into the playoffs. I mean, they're in the play-in right now. He could put him in the playoffs by himself without Zion even suiting up. So looking at what this team could be is scary when you add CJ McCollum to him. And so, when I look at all this stuff from a hobby standpoint, sorry, Giannis, your boy Dante and your Prism collection. Hope you got him to sign that card because he's out of town. But the Bucks got Serge Ibaka. That's a good deal. Serge
I think
should see a little bump, but I think you're going to see the biggest winner from a hobby.
Well, hold on. Who made out like bandits was the Celtics. They got Derek White in exchange for Romeo Langford and Josh Richardson and a draft pick.
Yes. Yes.
How on earth did the Spurs do that trade? There is no their GM should be tossed out the window.
It's like they forgot to click a button, like there's always a button on like, hey, should we include this person? Should we include that person? Should we include that person? It's almost like they forgot to click two of the buttons.
Because that's really what it is.
It was
or somebody clicked those two and they were supposed to click Tatum. And I don't think that, but but it seems like it's one of those trades that like I think somebody wants to get fired. I think somebody wants to collect unemployment because if they quit on their own, they can't collect unemployment. But if they get fired, they can do that. I think that might be this situation that's going on in San Antonio right now.
Yeah, it very, very well could be. So who is your, before we wrap everything up, who is your biggest winner from a hobby standpoint from the trade deadline?
All right. I think there's a couple of them. I think, when you touched on Halliburton earlier, I think that was definitely a bigger win. But I'm going to go a little bit under the radar with a trade that we haven't even discussed yet. And I'm going to go with my boy, Robert Covington. I think that was a great trade for him. Even though he's not starting down in LA like he was with Portland, he's actually putting up better numbers coming off the bench.
Yep.
Than he did with the Trailblazers. And I think I think what we're going to see out of him is he's finally going to return to his, first team all defense form that we saw in Philadelphia. As long as he's staying healthy, I think he is an under the radar kind of like, this is what the biggest pickup is going to be, for that one.
Nice. I like that. I'm going to go a little different. My biggest is going to be a surprise probably. And it's not someone that I even like as a player. Like I'm not a fan of his necessarily, but I love the trade. I think it puts them over the top and I think they end up possibly winning a championship. And that's the James Harden trade to Philly. I think James Harden to Philly could absolutely 100% turn them into a championship team. They already had possibilities of winning a championship, but if James Harden's healthy with the rest of that team, if that team has enough time to gel, James Harden and I think the Sixers in the next 2 years, the Sixers are winning a championship. I'll put money on that at any future bet that you want. And James Harden cards have always been under the radar. They've gotten that little bump because they're in the same year as Steph, but he's always been behind Steph because he's in that same draft class. So I think James Harden's cards are in a position now to where they really could get the respect they deserve. James Harden holders made out great.
I think Harden is a good pick for that, particular one. I do think that he doesn't get the respect that he deserves, but I also think that he will always be number 2 behind Curry. At least from that draft pick or from that draft class.
Oh yes, Curry's Curry's Mount Rushmore is one that changed the game. I think maybe finally those boxes are going to get more expensive because I think Harden shines in Philly. But y'all, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Let Me Get That Potograph. Scott, once again, it's always a pleasure, my friend.
Fun show today, Drew.
Yeah, first time having a guest on the show with you, so popped the cherry on that one. Getting used to having a co-host again. Hope you guys are enjoying it as well. The mailbag will be back next week, of course. Congratulations to Cardman Dan, by the way, for winning and getting a great CC Sabathia auto out of that box of Topps Chrome Black. It's already on its way to you, brother. And of course, I'd like to thank our awesome sponsors, Card Ladder, Card Crusade, Vintage Breaks, and Vanity Slabs. Could not do the show without you guys. Once again, thanks.
And a big thanks to Nate Burns.
Yes.
From Grand Slam for coming on with us today and talking about multiple different topics. Always very interesting. Look forward to having him back again soon.
It is, absolutely. So you guys know the deal. Till next week, keep ripping those packs, pulling those hits. We'll talk to you then. Peace.